to SteamPunk. This is your host, SteamPunk Bob, and today we examine a game that came out of the Green Light District, Teslagrad. Teslagrad. In a way, it's a Metroidvania type of game, but unlike basically every other Metroidvania I've played, there is absolutely minimal combat. Teslagrad has bosses, but no mooks. One of the major points of a normal Metroidvania tends to be having tools that pull double duty between combat and puzzle solving. In Teslagrad, however, outside of the bosses, of which there are obviously only a handful, there's no combat, just obstacles. Teslagrad is a game tailor-made for international release, because, think about it, what's the hardest part of a language to translate? The story, the emotions, the feels. It requires such an intimate knowledge of both languages that it's incredibly easy to screw it up. Except Teslagrad has no text outside of the menus. All tutorials, all story elements, they're shown entirely through pantomime, wall paintings, even some automated puppet shows, but no text. It seems like it would be a waste to not translate the menus into every language. Our hero is this kid, who apparently is being hunted by someone who has soldiers in red uniforms. After that, someone who is either your mother or an adopted mother sees those soldiers coming and shuffles you out the back door and off you go. You keep going right, learning the basics of the controls until you hide in a mysterious castle and its drawbridge closes behind you. Here's where the game starts playing its unique elements. And before anyone asks, this is how magnets work. That's the calculation of the attraction between two bar magnets, where A is the area shared by the magnets, the mu naught on the bottom there is a constant, the permeability of free space, and B is measurement of the strength of the magnetic field, called flux density, the units of which, of course, are Teslas. Note that this equation only works if the magnets are very close together, so we won't actually be using this particular equation much in this game. Anyway, if you've never seen electromagnetic forces before, you just need to know there's two of them. In the game, they are red and blue. The same ones try to get away from each other, and opposites attract. The forces are more intense the closer the two sources are to one another, since it drops off with the square of the distance, i.e. twice the distance means a quarter of the force. And
I'm a graduate student in electrical and computer engineering.
Sorry, we're here to talk about video games, not physics. So, after showing you a couple of mechanics, your basic run, jump, climb up on things, there are some things that can change magnetic forces without you directly hitting them, you quickly get your gloves that let you use left or right to punch certain objects to give them a red or blue charge. Now, you can't punch everything. If a block has X's on it, you can't directly affect it. Then you move on to getting these neat flash step boots. You can travel faster with them, add horizontal distance to a jump, zip through deadly lightning barriers. They're pretty cool. One issue with the puzzles. Sometimes you don't know what you're attempting to do. There's been times where I just wandered around punching things or getting to what I thought was the end of a room and just gave things charges with no real goal. And then I wander around back to the beginning of the room and oh! That's what I was supposed to do. The puzzle makes sense in retrospect, but sometimes I don't understand what I was trying to do. The bosses aren't truly a problem, they do have some trouble with their implementation. Since the bulk of the game is about exploring and movement and such, you die in one hit. This makes sense when your obstacles are lava and deadly electrical arcs and such, but this means that bosses kill you in one hit too. The bosses, for the most part, are well designed and fun, but you have to deal with them in one perfect run. So every time you tag the boss, then they'll move on to a new phase, pull out a new attack, or slightly change their timing, or something, and you die. Then you start over from the very beginning of the boss fight. You get pretty good at the start of a boss fight, but then you get less and less practice in the later sections, which makes it more flustering because you have to do things you've proven you know how to do before you have the privilege of attempting the Phase 3 boss again. And the bosses make sense in each phase, but they're all about learning the patterns and dealing with them. So if you die to the final phase, you have to play through the entire boss fight again. And if you play enough times, you will make a mistake. One thing I do find a bit irritating is the map system. Any game that's about exploring and going back to earlier areas needs to have a great map system. But as far as my experimentation has shown, there's minimum ability to zoom it or move it around. There doesn't seem to be any function to take notes, and there's not terribly clear labels as to what rooms are. For example, a note if there was a hidden pickup in that room that you might want to go back to later now that you have more experience and tools. So when I'm trying to find those bonus items, I'm generally just wandering around the castle. The control is very straightforward and solid. Your tools are all assigned to the arrow keys, with left always having to do with blue charges, and right always doing red charges. Feels very good, and it's easy to get used to new tools. Also, this hoodie that lets me give myself a charge at will makes an omega, and it's adorable. Overall, this game is fun, and you should get it. You don't need to be an electrical engineer to enjoy this game. You just need to like clever puzzles and fun mechanics. Anyway, this is SteamPunk Bob, out.